Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to our latest science chat. Today is going to be all about citizen science. So we invited different experts from, well, basically all over the world today to share their experiences and their projects on citizen science. We have Jelle here from the Netherlands, Jeff from the US, and Emelia from Canada. And they will briefly present. Everyone has got about 10 minutes. And I also ask you to maybe present yourself a bit and the project. And yeah, and then after that we have the science set usually lasts an hour, so we have time till 9, but even longer if you guys have time to answer some question and just discuss a bit. I think there is a lot of interested people today, so we'll probably have a lot of questions too. So yeah, maybe we'll start with Jelle with your OurRhine project.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Jelle from the Netherlands. I live in the middle of Netherlands, and I was curious where everybody is from. I see so many last names from all over the world. It's good to see. I was invited by Vera, which is she's from Holland as well. And so this is how we came across to each other. And I saw your beautiful project. You're a great group of young people with a lot of energy and a lot of ideas. I was in the same kind of group as well, along teachers, and from that background we started to build a citizen science project along the Rhine River. And I will start sharing my screen. It always takes a short while. I'm sorry for that, but I think we're able to go in a while. And the question always is, can you see my screen? Yeah, okay. So I'm Jelle Kabbes. Today I will tell you something more about citizen science, and especially for in education. It's not an add-on. A lot of teachers see it as an add-on, as a fun gimmick to add to your normal lessons. I would like to advise you to really sell it to the teachers and really show the value of this kind of learning. But you also got to sell it to the pupils, to the children, and you got to spice up your protocols to really get them engaged and to work with your protocols that you would like to use. So this is what I do. I'm a former teacher. I teach geography in high school, and from there I started to build on a project, and well, that went a little bit further than I thought. I quit my day job as a teacher after 15 years, and now I full-time develop education and educative games. And so this is the project that I would like to tell you about. It's OurRhine. It's a project run by a lot of schools along the Rhine River. And last month we had our launch event. So first we wanted to have a good organization, a good hub network, and we were able to reach out to a network of visitor centers all along the Rhine River, and we are now asking them to join, and they have, and they always concentrated and focused on their particular part of the river. And so it's really identical for their location, but it's also good to look further than that and see the river as a whole system. And so that was our main goal, to show the people the new story of the Rhine, not only when there's bad news about it, when there are environmental things which are not good for the Rhine River. We also want to emphasize what has been happening all along the period, and the Rhine became a good river to live at, and we should take care of together. Later on, I will show you some more about that project. I integrated some slides because, yeah, I'm still a little bit a teacher, so I need some practical background to it. So the cone of experience, you got to sell this to teachers. So if you have a citizen science project that you want to be run by students and teachers, then they really should have the feeling that this outdoor learning is not an add-on, it's a real value and a proven way of learning. The highest, or the lower you go down in this pyramid, the higher the effectiveness of learning is by students. So if people, the students are going out and they analyze, define, create, evaluate, and they are experiencing the thing that need to be learned, it's a much more effective way than keep them locked up in their classrooms. A good framework that I use a lot, and so I'm also dropping some sources today with you, so you could share and see them, look them up. It's on National Geographic. I'm a National Geographic certified educator, and what helped me a lot during my work is that, okay, the learning framework. A lot of those things are obvious that you do it, but it's good to show this kind of things to teachers. When you want to involve schools to it, you really have to prove what the value of going outdoor and learning outdoor is. So this kind of frameworks really help. The name National Geographic always helps, because then they feel, okay, this must be validated. But it's also a good framework for your own work, and you can recreate it. So you really got to sell it to your teachers, but also sell it to your pupils or students. So I really try to tell them and try to engage them first what the Rhine is. What kind of river is it? How long is it? How does it look like? Where is the source? Where is the place where it comes, where it runs out into the sea? Because we as teachers a lot of times think, okay, they probably know that, but they don't have a clue about how the Rhine looks somewhere else, and that it's in a corridor, ecological corridor for all of us. So I always sell it a little bit like a commercial company approach, because I want to have them fully engaged. And these kind of pictures I always show before we go out, because then when they see this, they're like, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is cool. This is not learning inside of a classroom that's boring. I want to go out. So we all wanted to visualize and experience it, because that's one of the most effective ways of learning. So for the Rhine River, we had the problem this year that nobody could travel along the Rhine. But even in a normal period, it's good that you use modern technologies like a Google Earth or a Street View with the 360 degrees pictures, because then you can put your students anywhere along the Rhine and really get them familiar with the Rhine. And it also adds value towards the teachers. Then you really take them work out of their hands, and it's easy for them. This is fully distance learning proof, and it also shows them, okay, this is how you can use Google Maps or Google Street View or Google Earth, and really put it into your lesson. So they're learning from this project as well. So you got to make it fun for them. So we make this card game for our project, OurRhine. We made like a domino, so they could really get to know all the kind of fishes, that migratory fish that all swim all the way up to Rhine. And we introduce the use of smartphones in the project. And we use iNaturalist to do the bio blitz at the riverside. I'm not, I don't know what your knowledge is already about a naturalist, but it's like the Shazam of the nature. So you bring your phone, you make pictures, and then you say, okay, what did I observe? What did I observe? And then they have a whole list of, well, you might have observed this. It's the most logical that you could find at this spot. And then when you share it in like a big map, then you can show, and then you can see the different species, the number of observations that has been done. And kids love this because it's visual, and they really get the feeling that it's that they're behind the buttons. It's not something abstract. It's really brought into practice, and it's visualized. As soon as they push the button, it's there to be shared and validated by other observers within this program. And so here we are at the Rhine. This was from last year. I did with my students. We had all kinds of observations, and from that observation we could learn that the water quality at this specific point was quite good. If you look at, I forgot the name, but the little blue insect which is there, a dragonfly, I'm not sure. Anyway, we try to analyze our specific observations, and also look at the observations along the Rhine River within the same project, because then you can tag our project with your observations, and you can see a whole map of schools that they're joining the project. Okay. One of the things that was a really big challenge for us is to simplify protocols. And I know all you scientists love protocols. You need them, of course, I understand. Looking at from the perspective of a youngster, yeah, they get overkilled by all the information that is there. So then we really had to do something, because otherwise they get bored out, and we want to make them enthusiastic for science, and to really contribute towards doing investigations by yourself. So you can use these easy things like a Quizlet. You make these word cards, and on the back of it you put the definition of it, and then you can have, so you can make them, you can clarify the vocabulary. We use a lot of vocabulary in citizen science, but our students are not familiar with it enough yet. Okay, so this is the point that we had the best results in making protocols and making sure that students really follow the protocol. They learn it. Well, protocols are being seen as something really boring, but it shouldn't be. So there we chopped up all the protocols into small parts, sizable parts, and then we made game questions for it in in advance of the project day, but also along the project day at the location itself. So there they had to show on their mobile, they see all these dots that are located along the Rhine River. They go there, and it shows one short movie how the particular protocol should be followed, or like a small part of a protocol that has to be done. So previous to the project, it's they will show how to do it in the bathtub at home. It's really fun. It's also to make it fun, and they could use it in another way, and they share their movies, short clips, and they will show it in the classroom. And it's really fun because of course, there was one guy, he was measuring the water quality of his toilet, and he went in with his hand, and everybody was laughing, but at the same time, it was a really good way of making it fun. And from there on, it was easier to say, okay, well, now we're going to train you up towards being a water scientist, and you can do some of those measurements step by step. And by in games, students are willing to do things like 50 times over and over and over. And in a protocol, they look at it once or twice, and they think, this is too difficult. So this is what we wanted to integrate into the learning way of learning them, teaching them protocols. Yeah, here I do have some advice. What I saw along our projects is that we started out with a whole package of protocols, but you really should be considering not to do it all, and not to do it all at once. Pick a couple of good protocols, what you want to use, what you would like to measure, and I'd rather pick 1 or 2 than 8 in all, because 1 or 2 good measurements will say a lot more than 8 sloppy measurements. So I wanted to drop some sources to you as well that I used. One of them is National Geographic. They have this educational program. I really loved it, to follow it. It's a good network behind it. There's a National Geographic educator network, and there are all people like we are, sitting behind the Zoom at night, or for some of you it's a day. But anyway, the whole world comes together on this platform as well. There are a lot of enthusiastic teachers to find and to easily attract them towards your project. The other one is the GLOBE program. It's,
sorry, Jelle, to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask how long still, just to keep
2 minutes.
Okay, then finish.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I was finishing up, sorry. So the GLOBE program, it's the educational network from NASA, and they're all about worldwide science and education, and they're doing citizen science a lot. I'm involved with GLOBE as well. Worldwide, there are about 80,000 schools that work on protocols and use protocols. Some of them every day, some of them once a week, some of them once a year. But anyway, look up if there's a GLOBE school in your country, and it's really easy to get them in, because they are trained protocol youngsters already. And this is the European Citizen Science Association. They have this 10 principles of citizen science, which is very convenient to use as a framework for your education. So I hope that I told you something about OurRhine, how we started it. And I also wanted to emphasize on, okay, you really got to sell it. It's almost like a commercial company approach. And I hope you learned something from it. And this is how you can contact me. This is what I do now all day. So it's my day job: education and gamification and communication towards youngsters. So thank you for having me, David. And I will I will stop sharing my screen right now.
Yeah, thank you, Jelle. This was very, very interesting. And I think we'll probably have a lot of questions on this. Maybe just a super quick one. What kind of range of ages do you work with? Because you showed pictures from very young to older high school, maybe students.
Yeah, so from 12 to 16, 17.
Okay. It would maybe also be nice if you can then share your presentation, because I think you had so many interesting also links and material. Yep. So maybe we can share it with everyone and they can look it up. Thank you.
I'll make a PDF format and send it to you, David.
Thank you, nice. Okay, I will give the word to Emelia now from Water Rangers. She's from Canada and will tell you more about her project, and then at the end we can have a round of questions for everyone. I think that's the easiest.
Perfect. Yeah, so as David said, my name is Emelia and I work for the Canadian nonprofit organization Water Rangers. I have a background in environmental studies and water resource management, and I've been with Water Rangers for the past 7 months or so, and it's been really awesome so far. So I'm going to share my screen with you all now. Okay, so I know that there are people here from all over the world, but a fun fact about Canada is that about 60% of our watersheds actually lack enough data for us to know how healthy they are, which is absolutely astonishing in my opinion. So this was brought to light in 2017 when the World Wildlife Fund published their watershed reports. And so Water Rangers, which was founded in 2015, and a bunch of other organizations knew we had to get to work. So that has kind of caused our organization to explode. As you can see on my screen, hopefully, we have people using Water Rangers all over the world to collect water quality data. So the way that we were started, it actually started with our data platform, which is what you see in front of you. So we're pretty much obsessed with making it easier for absolutely anyone to collect, store, and share water quality data. So a group of developers, including my boss, Kat, developed this data platform in 2015. And it's free, open access, and super user-friendly, so anyone can create an account on our website and easily upload their data, as well as retrieve data from other sampling sites. So as you can see here, we have observations everywhere. As an example of one, I'll go to my own profile. So I've tested at a few locations around where I live and in Texas, which I actually just came back from, which was awesome. So as you can see at this location here, I've uploaded a number of observations. So once you do that, you can actually see trends in the different parameters over time, which is super cool. And then you can share it on Facebook, you can share it on Twitter, you can upload pictures with your data as well. And we're also working on connecting our platform with larger data platforms, such as a Canadian platform called DataStream, so that decision makers can actually access our data super efficiently, super easily, and then they can make decisions based off of that data. So after we created this platform, people loved it and they approached us saying, hey, I want to take part in what you're doing, but I don't have the tools to collect water quality data. So we thought, okay, well, there surely must be some tools out there that people can access where they can take part in this. And so we did our research, and it turns out there actually wasn't very many tools out there that were affordable or easy to use, or that people without a formal scientific background could use and actually understand the results that they were getting. So because of that, we decided to create our own water quality test kits, which you can see here in our online store. And you know, the price up front seems a little steep for individuals, but compared to other kits that are on the market, they're about half the price. So inside we have things like connectivity meters, pH test strips, dissolved oxygen kits, thermometers, and a bunch of other stuff that are super easy to use. You get your results in real time, and then you upload that data back to our website. So we fund all that we do, half through our store and then also half through grant funding. So with the grant funding that we get, we usually run a lot of different programs. And so in running those programs, we get to kind of see people, you know, test the water in real life, and we get to talk to them and gain an understanding of what they learn through participating in citizen science activities. And I have to say, the most amazing thing that we have learned over time is that when people test the water, they develop stronger connections to it, and they want to protect it more as a result. So, you know, we started out as just a data platform, and it was all about providing people with a place to store and collect all their data very easily in a very user-friendly format. But it's really evolved to become so much more than that. And really our mission has truly become to connect people to water so that they care enough about it to protect it. So that's pretty much all I've got. And I'm looking forward to answering questions after the final presentation.
Thanks so much. This was really, really interesting. And especially the wide, I saw your map before, and it was spread out all over, also in Europe, everywhere, which I didn't know before.
Yeah, yes. Sorry, most of our observations are in Canada, but we are really expanding. And the growth has been exponential year after year. So yeah, we're kind of everywhere now, which is awesome.
Just a quick question. You've been talking about data and water quality. What exactly can you measure with the kit?
So you can measure connectivity, and then with connectivity, you can convert that measurement to total dissolved solids as well. You can measure pH, alkalinity, chlorine, hardness, dissolved oxygen, temperature. So all things that you essentially don't need a lab to measure. We are also doing a lot of research into other parameters that we will hopefully get better tests for in the future. So for example, one that people often ask, why don't you include tests for this in your kit, is phosphates. And that's because there are pretty much no tests on the market that are sensitive enough for the lakes in Canada and around the world. So they pretty much tell you there are phosphates present in the water, but not how much. And so at that point, it becomes like almost a waste of money, in our opinion. So yeah, we're actually doing research into that. We've developed a pretty cool machine learning feature on our app, which is hopefully going to improve the accuracy of certain tests over time. But it does take a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. But yeah, it's really what we're all dedicated to doing. So it's pretty awesome.
Nice. Maybe, yeah, it'd be super cool just to actually test one of those kits. Maybe one day we'll have the chance to. Okay, thank you very much. I'll give the word now to our last speaker, Jeff, from Smartphone for Water. And then at the end, we can have a big discussion all together. Thanks, Emelia, again.
Okay, well, those are tough acts to follow. Thank you so much, Jelle and Emelia, for sharing about your work. Very interesting. I already learned a lot. I hope we can continue that for the next 10 minutes here. Thank you, David, for the opportunity. So my name is Jeff from Smartphones for Water. I'm, I guess my day job is assistant professor here at California State University in Chico, California. I was just mentioning that I think David was mentioning it's snowing there, and we could use some snow. We've received 6 millimeters of precipitation since October 1st, which is, well, really since probably about May 1st. So it's not looking good. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to share a bit about smartphones for water. I'm going to do a different presentation technique that I've never done before. So you guys are the guinea pigs here. I'm just going to do the old write on a whiteboard thing. Smartphones for water. So that's what the project is called, and that's what we're going to be looking at. If I scroll down here, here's our icon, and the thing I love about this this icon is that it's just made up of people, right? And this is the beauty of citizen science. These are all actually people from, not necessarily from Nepal, but that worked on this project in Nepal. Vera, one of your members or leaders, is maybe perhaps hidden in one of these pictures, but she came to Nepal in 2016, and that's how we connected with River Keepers, with River Collective. So what is Smartphones for Water? And what's the context, of course, that people like Jelle and Emelia are working to connect people to? And of course, if you talk to any young people today and you say, well, where does water come from? They might just say it comes from the tap. And if you kind of press them a little bit over here, they might say, well, I don't know much about this. I don't know much about this. Right, I apologize for my bad handwriting. There we go. And so this is the challenge, right? And this is what citizen science is, what we're trying to bridge the gap here, so that there's a little bit more knowledge filled into this box, and people don't think that water comes from the tap. Now, of course, the same thing holds with food, right? So these are some of our essential resources. Where does food come from? Well, it comes from the supermarket shelves, right? And I have no clue what's happening over here on the left. So again, these are the ways we're trying to connect people with their resources. And a final analogy that I'll use that'll kind of set the stage for citizen science and for the Smartphones for Water project specifically is if you climbed into one of these Airbuses, I think that's what this is, and you sat down and you wanted to have any hope of safely guiding this plane to its destination, you might rejoice in the fact that there's a dashboard covered with information. And of course, if you look down at the dashboard and it looks something like this, you might have a sensation of panic set in because you realize that without that information, you can't actually successfully guide that plane or make the right decision. Same is the case with water. And so our equation, and it's very similar to what Emelia and Jelle shared about, our equation for trying to make this work, at least for exploring it in Nepal, was to involve community members together with young researchers, enthusiastic young people, and then to use the smartphone as a collaboration hub. And let me just tell you a little bit about a few of my friends here. This is Sabina and Iswari and Asirbad, and they live on the bank of a river called the Bagmati River. It's the drainage that comes out of the Kathmandu Valley. And when Iswari was a kid, the river was absolutely beautiful. She would swim, eat the frogs out of there. By the time Sabina was born, over here, it started to smell. You might not want to eat the frogs. And by the time that Asirbad was born, just a few years ago, you can literally not even come close without wanting to vomit. It's very sad. 90% of Kathmandu's wastewater is not treated, and it runs right by their house. And so they have been perceiving these changes, but unfortunately, there's no quantitative evidence that supports that, for us to make arguments to policymakers and as scientists. And, so this is some of the challenges that the Kathmandu Valley is facing, both from a water quality standpoint, but also a water quantity standpoint. And that's really actually what Smartphones for Water's focus is. Emelia is doing wonderful work with their organization, Jelle, really focused a lot on water quality. And we're focused a bit more on water quantity, something you might call water accounting. And this is a little bit harder to gamify and make awesome. And so I'd love to talk with Jelle a bit about this, because this is a nut that we haven't cracked. Sorry to use the English colloquium, but this is a challenge that we haven't figured out yet. And so we'd love to talk about that. From water accounting perspective, essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to measure how water moves through the landscape. So you have precipitation coming into the landscape. This is the Kathmandu Valley here. You have some of that water coming into the valley floor, some of it evaporating from the vegetation, some of it flowing out of the stream by Iswari and Sabina and Asirbad's house there, and interactions all the way along between the communities, the industries, the rivers, and everything. And we were just so pleased and thrilled to partner with several hundred students over the last 5 years. Well, it's really been about 3 years. We started in earnest in about 2017, measuring things like rainfall with soda bottles. And so here's an example of a homemade soda bottle gauge. And we use a very, probably not great looking, but very easy to use open source application called Open Data Kit, or ODK, to collect our data. And we just do it so that people can quickly learn how to make their own forms and collect their own data that they're interested in. And you might be wondering, well, how good is a soda bottle at measuring rainfall? It turns out it's pretty darn good, actually. And it's better than nothing. How about that? So we were within a few percent most of the time, and systematically a bit low, but there's a paper about that I can share in Frontiers. And here's a map of some of the places where we measured precipitation, mostly in the Kathmandu Valley, but heading out towards Pokhara as well, and then a little bit in the east here in Dharan. And we're happy to report that that's expanding and continuing. Also, one of the fluxes, or sorry to use one of the flow paths, one of the way water moves through the valley is also in the streams. And so we wanted to see if there's a way that citizens could measure streams. And it turns out we did some research on using salt and smartphones and a cheap EC meter. And with those three things, we were able to measure the flow at all these red dots when the government only measures at these triangles here. And actually, there's really only one active gauge, which is that one. And so we can scale up that data just with salt, smartphones, and EC meters. Just a quick shot of a slow expansion, mostly just through relational networks and stuff. So we started here in Nepal in 2017, working in Ghana and the Netherlands, and this is a GPS problem. There are measurements just starting in Afghanistan here, and then over here in North America. We're working with the UN and the Food and Agriculture Organization to try to scale this up, because water counting relies currently either on ground observations that the governments perform or on satellite data that it more and more is becoming freely available, which we're thankful for. This is a map of precipitation in Afghanistan. But we can't get the government data. Oftentimes it's not available in places like Afghanistan that have issues with security. And so we don't know if this is right. And wouldn't it be lovely to have some of the Afghan citizens, and we have a colleague who is just starting this, you know, have some soda bottle gauges out there. And then we would be able to see, is this water, is this precipitation data right? Are we making the right management decisions? We don't know. Here's the pitch, you know, join, measure, and change. We either have too much water, we have too little water, or we have too dirty water. Those are the things we're always trying to understand. And so with the icon again, and it'd be lovely if you or some of the people that you know would want to, you know, join collage. I suppose I should write up with that. David is speechless here. No, let me write up my contact information here. Jeff, hopefully my handwriting is good enough. Jeff at smartphones for water.org. I think I got that spelled correctly. You know, on a computer, there's this handy key called F7. On a whiteboard, you don't have it, and I'm always wondering when the F7 button is going to appear for the whiteboard so that I don't spell things wrong. Sorry, David. Thank you.
So no, thanks a lot. I missed the last two sentences where you were actually asking something to us. My connection dropped during that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was just saying, you know, if this is of any of any interest, just to reach out, you know, and perhaps think about becoming part of the collage here at the Smartphones for Water family.
Oh yeah, definitely. The project sounds super interesting. And what I was wondering when you were sharing your insights and the measurements you do, this is super technical. Sorry, everyone. How accurate is the salt discharge measurements done with a simple, cheap EC device compared to a lab-grade device?
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me see if I can quickly answer it quantitatively here. Citizen science flow. So there's a Hess paper that I'll share the link with you right now in the chat here, and this kind of dives into that discussion. Let's see here, everyone. So there's that paper. And this is kind of the key figure to answer your question quantitatively. What we did is we used a hydroacoustic device called a flow tracker, acoustic Doppler velocimeter, and we compared that to two other simple techniques that we identified, like the float method. You guys have all done flow measurements. I know it, right? You drop something in and just let it float. Versus salt dilution versus the Bernoulli method, which is like a run-up method. And so the punchline is that definitely the salt is best. Certainly some variability. This is the percent difference from the reference here. And so you're usually within plus or minus 25 to 50%, which sounds pretty bad, but it's better than plus or minus, you know, negative 100 to 200%. So they all have their issues, but yeah, check out that paper.
Oh, nice. Yeah, if we can share that link would be super great.
You got it. There it is.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So I would have millions other questions, but I think given that the time constraints we have, I would like to open up the questions to all the participants here. So if anyone has a question, just either write it on the chat or speak up yourself. Zoom has this function where you can like raise your hand, so we know who's got a question.
I actually had a question for Emelia.
Yes, go for it.
I thought it was really interesting, like water rangers, and I was just wondering if you focus more just on watersheds, or if you look and take data in for like all types of information, and how, like, which one do you focus more on in like terms of measurements and stuff?
So our website actually has customizable forms, so different groups can sort of customize the different parameters they want to enter data for. So, you know, if people do have the ability to access data that they can only collect in labs, they can upload that. We do have a few groups down in the States actually that are doing that. So yeah, it really depends on who exactly we're talking about, but yeah, it is like data about like lakes and rivers and streams, so watersheds. We don't do like water quality, or sorry, water drinking quality, just because that stuff is a little bit more complicated. And we also wouldn't want anyone to, you know, think that maybe the water quality is good based on certain measurements and like they could get sick from it. There are more liabilities associated with that for drinking water. And in Canada as well, drinking water is a bit of a contentious issue with some communities, especially in certain parts of the country. They don't have access to clean drinking water. So it is very complex, and so we don't really deal with that sort of stuff.
Cool, thank you.
So Vera made it finally, even though she might not have enough good enough connection to actually show her face, but she's here. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Can be specifically to any of the speakers or generally about citizen science. I know that a lot of people here are currently working on educational activities and citizen science.
I have a question for Emelia also. You had mentioned that you said the people who took observations had a bigger connection to the water and just wanting to save it. And I was wondering if you guys actually did a study on that, or if you just assumed that after feeling it yourself.
Yeah, so we actually, with a lot of our programs, because they are funded by grants, there are certain reporting requirements after the grant program is done. So we do have to actually like collect some specific numbers about like the impact that we've been able to have with the program. So with a lot of our programs, if not most of them actually, we always distribute questionnaires at the end. So we collect data that way. And also, so I just finished my master's before starting to work for Water Rangers, which is actually how I got connected with them. So I was involved with a research project where we were essentially interviewing people to gain a better understanding of how water testing affected their connectedness to nature. So yeah, we definitely are working on validating all of these research questions and all the data and stuff. We do have a research section on our website as well under the About tab. So if you want to go check that out, you can. And we're always working on more research. We're connected with a lot of researchers around Canada, and hopefully we can connect with more all over the world in coming years.
Yeah, guys, don't be shy. You can also use the chat. In the meantime, I'm super curious to hear more about this idea of gamifying citizen science. Because yeah, it's easy to gamify fun things, but science is not necessarily fun, or it's difficult to make it fun. Can you give, for example, a concrete example of how this tool you showed before works?
Yeah, well, to show right now it's quite difficult though, but the thing is the platform that I use, it's do-it-yourself gamifier. So I'm not technical at all, I mean, bringing together this connection with Zoom is one of my highest accomplishments on a technical level today. So I'm not a technical guy, but I am able to gamify my education, and it's a really cool tool. It's Seppo. It's from Finland, and they are #1 in education and technology. They combined it together, and now they have done all the programming and coding, and they gave the teachers the building blocks to build your own educative games. So at the moment that you have your curriculum, the only thing that you then need is your own didactical, pedagogical skills in how to translate it towards into a question. That is the point where you can show your quality, but it's not about making the game anymore, because the game building blocks are there already. So for instance, doing a water measurement, one of the easiest thing is okay, we want to have it done like 30 centimeters below the water level. So we show 4 pictures, and they have to choose the correct picture. So one is on top of the water, the other one is really going straight in the middle of the river, and one of them is actually using the 30 centimeters depth to measure the water. So they first say, okay, yeah, that's the correct way to do it. And then the second question will be, okay, now make a short movie, and show it. It doesn't matter if you're not on a river or you're at home. Show it. So that's where you get the point that somebody fills up the bathtub to show it, or other fun ways. But then it's so you can start training your citizen scientists at home before they're at the location, because what we have done before is that we start to talk about those protocols just like a week in advance, but at the location, at the site, they didn't have too much confidence of and knowledge how to do it in the correct manner. So that's why we built the game and chopped it up into sizable parts, and then just like first pictures of how it should be done. And then, for instance, another one is you film it and you do a wrong measurement. You don't bring the practice. You don't bring the protocol in the right practice. So you film it and you ask the player, what went wrong here? Tell us. So those are ideas to gamify even things else as a protocol.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I actually have a question about that.
Yeah, go.
Is the Rhine River like the first river that you guys have done this for, or like is this the trial, or have you worked on other rivers where you're trying to gamify and get people involved, or is it mainly just this one that you're focusing on?
No, so the Rhine River is the first one that I am aware of, because it's the project that I'm connected to. So I'm not aware if protocols get gamified in citizen science and education on the river side yet. What I do know is that, because I run a gamification company as well, and it's being used a lot for protocols. It doesn't matter what protocol, but any protocol that contains a lot of text, and but you want to make it more visual, or you can have some trial and error before you're there. That's being used a lot already.
Yeah, I think we will have to have a test round with you to actually test it out, but the concept sounds really interesting. Yeah, it would be super interesting to hear. I mean, so your topic, so your approach is more to get people involved and so more of a teaching tool in a way. But in the case of Jeff and Emelia, the 2 projects, from what I could understand, they were started as a way to gather data and get people to engage and gather data also in many places where there is no data available. So I was wondering what's the approach you take in using this data? Agencies coming to you and asking for to use your data, or does it go the other way around, where you collect the data and then try to actually use it by convincing politicians or local managers to actually using this data for their management plans?
Okay, so I can briefly talk about the situation for the OurRhine. There's an organization which is the International Commission for the Protection of the Rhine River, who saw the project and directly said, okay, we're going to support this. And we have some universities that are interested as well. So like the University of Cologne or Wageningen University in the Netherlands. So they taught us some ways to how to do those measurements and in which measurements they were particularly interested in. But there it comes, then it should be run for a couple of years to get really interesting data. And now it's just too briefly, but now we have this network of 35 visitor centers all along the Rhine River, which will be starting collecting water on like a daily basis. So then we finally will be able to share the data and have feasible data for scientists as well. So this is one of the things that I would like to advise if you run a citizen science project. You could look if there are some, especially on a river, if there are visitor centers or something, of musea or globe schools or things like that, of UNESCO kind of schools that are connected in a network. And if you can draw them towards your project, then you get a lot of contact and content, I think.
Okay, thanks. What's the situation in Kathmandu or Canada?
Yeah, I'll answer next. So essentially for us, it really depends on who is collecting the data. So if you don't mind, actually, I'll share my screen again just to show you an example.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so as you can hopefully see here on our website, we actually have a groups section. So you can see some of the groups that are using our platform to store and share their data. So an example is the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. They have 7,500 observations uploaded, which is quite a lot. So yeah, depending on the group, they'll use their data for different reasons. We have one group called Equipping Data Deficient Communities with Water Testing Kits. And that was actually the first group that we connected with another platform called DataStream, and then DataStream feeds their data to WWF. And then they're the organization that compiles that big report that I mentioned earlier on, which pretty much just outlines the status of water quality in Canada. So right now, it's actually pretty cool because Canada is in the process of developing a Canada Water Agency. So right now we have no sort of federal authority that kind of oversees all of like the water monitoring across the country, which is kind of the reason why there are such large data deficiencies in the first place. So hopefully water rangers and other organizations like us, we can come together in this new agency, and then our data will hopefully feed straight to it, and then decision makers can access it easily to make decisions. But yeah, so some people also use our kits and they don't upload their data to our platform. So Indigenous groups, for example, they might want to collect data just to keep a track of how their water quality is doing over time, but they're more hesitant to share that data on an open data platform for political reasons. So yeah, it really depends on the group. We do have some people who approach us and they want to access our data because they can't fulfill their own mandates. So during COVID, for example, there are some conservation authorities that haven't been able to continue on with their water quality testing just because they haven't had the financial resources or the manpower to do it. So they've actually come to us and they've said like, hey, like we're interested in seeing the data that maybe some scientists have collected around this area, because we don't have the ability to collect it ourselves right now. So yeah, it really depends, but it's pretty cool what people are able to get from it when we all work together.
Okay, nice, thanks. And so yeah, this would be maybe the ideal situation where it's this big collaboration and also some managers actually coming to you and collaborating. So I'm wondering now, Jeff, for example, in Kathmandu, where I can guess this might be a bit different maybe.
Yes, yeah, definitely different. And we're definitely a less evolved or refined sort of output. We're just gonna have a bunch of students trying to do some research and get the word out. But very exciting in terms of, our perspective was definitely coming as a research perspective in terms of the question, is the water use sustainable in terms of the Kathmandu Valley? So do we have enough water coming in compared to what is going out, and how is the change in storage varying over time? And there's an organization called the Kathmandu Valley Water Supply Management Board, who is the government entity responsible for that question. And I spent a lot of time, probably a whole year when we first moved to Kathmandu, to develop relationships and see if there was a partnership there. And it just didn't happen. And that's why we pivoted and worked with students. And it turned out to be a wonderful thing, because now the Kathmandu Valley Water Supply Management Board is coming back to us, group of students, and saying, hey, we're trying to update our water balance, and we would love to use your flow data from all these streams and also the precipitation data. We don't know if we have enough stations to really understand the hydrology and all the different places. And I said, yes, this is great. So now the gap is closing in terms of the use of the data. And in the meantime, there's been lots of different research outputs, and it's kind of helped the capacity from an educational standpoint of lots of Nepali students. At a bigger level, I'll just say the last thought is that the UN Food and Agriculture Organization is interested in water accounting at a country or basin scale. And so we do that mostly with satellite data, but we're talking about how to, sort of do a top-down, bottom-up approach with citizen science linked with remote sensing, and sort of, is there some sort of optimal combination of the two? And we think there is. So.
Okay, nice, thanks. So basically, show them you can do it better, and they'll come to you in a few words.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just such little information, and lots of times countries don't want to share information about precipitation or stream flow, and so it's kind of also a way to develop information in kind of a grassroots way that can really help to understand satellite data that is freely available.
Okay, thanks. Basically, we've reached our time limit, but I'm happy to discuss a bit longer if you guys have still time. But I would like to officially conclude the science chat. Thanks everyone for this. Thanks to the speakers, so Jeff, Emelia, and Jelle, for this really interesting material. It was almost too much to cover in just an hour, but I hope we'll have more chances to actually discuss and learn from you. And to all the participants that came in and listened. So yeah, thanks a lot. And but yeah, if you guys still have time, I'm happy to discuss a bit longer. Otherwise, we can close it here.
I'm gonna say quickly hi, because now I'm actually seem to be able to be there. Hi Jeff, also it's good to see that you're still wearing the same shawl as you've been wearing, I think 5 years ago or something.
And I think you took this picture here, or maybe you or Petra. So.
Quite possible, quite possible.
Yeah, this is an
good to see you. Really, I'm looking forward to looking back to the recording. It's gonna take a while, and then I can actually see the presentation as well. But good to see all of you. And I just, so I'm probably asking a question that you've maybe been talking about already, but especially to Jeff, I think part of the inspiration of what we're doing with the River Collective is actually empowering students to really get into research and to contribute. It was kind of inspired also a bit by the project we did in Nepal. So thanks for that also. And I'm quite curious how that's going. Like if it's still really helping students to kind of make a career, if that makes sense, right? As a
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
Yeah, I think it is. It's really exciting. I mean, so you knew Nishal and Anusha were the first two students that we started to work with. Nishal's actually in Sweden right now doing his master's, and Anusha is looking for master's degrees opportunities. But since like beyond that, the two people that you know, we've been able to work with, I'd say probably like 20 or 30 different master's students now, and hundreds of bachelor students to do bachelor's theses and master's theses in Nepal, and also with younger groups like Jelle works with that age to do workshops with students and try to get them interested in the water cycle. I even try to talk about the water cycle in Nepali now, and it's really scary, but it's fun. So yeah, so I'm happy to report that it's going well, yeah, I hope we can connect back in Nepal sometime.
Yeah, thanks. Super cool. Yeah, I visited, I think 2 years ago once more, and then
I saw a
wasn't
picture.
Like a
Yeah.
team already 3 double of what I saw.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious if there's any people. I see a lot of people leaving, right? I guess like you said, David, we might also just finish off, but I'm at least curious to still keep on the chat a bit with at least you, Jeff, and whomever is still keen. So,
yeah. Maybe just a quick question, just a final one, which is probably, I don't know, something. Citizen science sounds nice and sounds easy, but what was the main challenge you guys had in to face in actually getting people, for example, in Kathmandu, to work with you and to embrace, collecting data, not just once, but over a longer time, so that it becomes an activity that actually gathers data that's meaningful?
Yeah, just since you said Kathmandu, I'll answer first, and then
or the other countries.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest difficulty, honestly, was me. And what I mean by that is when I would wander into a village or something, there's this really long and not helpful tradition, of like the white person bringing some sort of something good, and then the local person doing something, and it's just not helpful, and so like I fairly quickly just tried to get students. Like I would work with local students and say, you go talk to community members. Don't even tell them that it's an international project. Just go talk to people about their water resources, see if they're interested in joining this. And so I think I was the biggest challenge in terms of and I'm glad to be, well, I wish I was in Nepal, but I guess I'm glad to be back in the US now and just letting students kind of take the charge forward.
Okay. So approach local people and don't be the foreigner coming and trying to teach. That's probably also helps with the language gap, I would guess.
Yeah, for me, the biggest challenges was like the curricula in the Netherlands. It's packed, it's completely full, and I really had to convince those teachers go out. It's education as well. It's the real education. I mean, sitting inside and lock them up in your classroom and reading books. It's one part of education, but really to go out there and to see biology, like geography in real time. That's much more convincing for young people. And so I really had to show the educational value of attending such a project, not just for one day in 1 year, but to do it systematically. That's the biggest challenge, and I've not conquered that challenge yet. But yeah, we'll keep working on it.
Okay, okay. Do you have numbers about how many students keep doing the activities without you being there and working with them?
Yeah, so we can see the iNaturalist that keeps the data, and there you can still see some of those measurements being taken, but it all depends on also on the teacher that is involved. And what we now want to take away is that they first need a teacher to join. We want to almost bypass the teacher and go straight to the youngsters. And so we have some ideas, some communication ideas on reaching out on like Insta stories, using Insta stories to get the story about the Rhine more alive amongst them, and then get them in steps towards, okay, but you can also do something. Choose one. What would you like? And then you could do this Insta polls, and you just ask, what would you like to do? Would you like to share, do a water measurement? Would you like to collect, you make photos and share it by iNaturalist? Things like that. But we're not there yet. There's a communication plan, and it has to go through 35 visitor centers towards schools, and it's a big thing. And for big things, you always need some kind of funding, and it's always a challenge to find, of course.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Scaling up or organizing such a big event can be challenging.
Yeah, so we took some of those boundaries away by connecting to the network of visitor centers, and at least every visitor center has about 20 schools that visit them yearly. So if you multiply it by 35, and they all have 20 schools, that's a good start, I think.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm keeping you longer here than wanted, but I have so many questions personally. So, but just go whenever. Let me know.
Yeah, I will go any minute. Thank you for having me. And, I love to see that the smartphones for water and the water rangers. I'm gonna look it up tonight.
Thanks for being here. Yeah. Also,
Bye-bye.
thanks, Emelia. Ciao.
But thanks for having me. It was great to talk to you. And yeah, I hope that we can all connect again in the future.
Yep, definitely. Test your kit directly in the water. Ciao.